Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Albert Sanchez from San Francisco, California. I was born out here, United States. I just want to share my testimony with you guys for a little bit. So, I grew up in San Francisco in this small neighborhood called the Tenderloin, and basically, my neighborhood is very familiar with people from Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Filipino cultures. Not only that, but also as well as African descent and Latinos. And my neighborhood is fond of a lot of gang activity and a lot of drugs and alcoholism, a lot of HIV clinics. And so growing up in my neighborhood, I was always raised around homeless people and helping out the poor and going to church and participating in activities with the youth. And so I grew up in a Catholic background, and there was a church across the street that we would always go to every Sunday, and that's mainly my home church growing up. It's called St. Boniface, and at this church, I grew up. I did my confirmation, my communion, and all of that. But growing up, I never really knew what it meant to have a relationship with God, and so one of the biggest challenges for me was growing up in an environment where there was a lot of street activity and a lot of dangerous people who were constantly focused on money. And so growing up, all my friends were really affiliated in street life and gangs and money and drugs. And so the temptation was always there to want to participate in these activities, but never actually doing those things kind of allowed me to persevere and not fall into that the trap of the streets. And so my mom, she raised me in a single household with just by herself, and she played both roles of the mother and father, and it was really a challenge for her growing up because we lived in a one-bedroom apartment. And so allowing us to grow in this small neighborhood really helped us to save up money and just kind of grind it out and really know what it's like to push through these difficult challenges. She never really wanted me around those people, and so what she did was she put me in Catholic middle school, she put me in Catholic high school to kind of make sure that I wasn't living that lifestyle. And it helped for a little bit. The people around me were constantly focused on getting me to grow stronger and making sure that I wasn't, doing things that were going to hurt me one day. And so I remember in high school, my biggest challenges were the people around me were really pushing me in the wrong direction, and I was really tempted by that because it looked good. Everyone was doing it, all the cool people were part of that kind of crowd. And so, I started partaking in those activities where we were drinking and smoking. So I started taking up those bad habits. And so, you know, graduating from high school, Catholic high school, all boys, I went to a public college, which was a very different experience for me. Being institutionalized and very in an area where there was a lot of discipline. But now going into public college, it was a whole nother world. So I didn't really have a uniform anymore. I didn't have anybody telling me to wake up. I could go anytime to college. So I decided that, I was going to take school on. I started off with a high GPA of 3.75. But over time, what happened was I started affiliating myself with gangs again, and I started going back to drug use and alcohol. And that really kind of started to take me downhill. And it allowed me to open up doors that I regret opening. So my biggest challenge in college was to make sure that I was still going to school, but also to make sure that I was doing what I had to do for my mom, because I was taking care of things at home, and so the people that I was associating myself with weren't really influencing me in the right direction. And it was really causing a lot of concern for my family and my friends, because they saw the amount of drug use that I was under and a lot of alcohol that I was consuming. And that took a toll on me. It took a toll on me, mentally and physically. And, it really hurt me and the people around me. So after a while, I decided that I was going to drop out of college. And I did. I dropped out, and I ended up not going to school for a number of months, almost a year and a half. I had wasted a year not going to school because I wanted to, be out in the street. I wanted to be with people who were, who I thought were cool and were doing things that, other people weren't doing. And so that lifestyle really caught my attention. And so, my drug use consumption increased. Same thing with alcohol. And not only that, but I remember just living on my friend's floor for a number of months and not really having food or any money to sustain myself. And so my only source of income was selling drugs at that time. And so I really remember thinking that I had nothing else going for me. And so I decided that I wasn't going to go to school. I wasn't going to work. I was just going to kind of live this street life for a while. And after a while, I kind of got fed up with how I was living. I realized that I didn't want to keep doing that anymore. I realized that I wanted to change, and that I wanted to be a different person. So I started going to school again in 2012, 2013. Around that time, I started going back to school. I decided that I was going to go to college at San Mateo, and I was going to enroll there and start taking on a new program called criminal justice that I was really unfamiliar with. And my professor there was the one who started getting me going again. He was the one who was pushing me in the right direction. He allowed me to see that the lifestyle that I was living was only going to lead me down the wrong path. And my professor allowed me to get better grades because he was pushing me. He was constantly checking up on me. And what happened was, after that time period in college in San Mateo, after 2 years, I ended up graduating. 2 years, I had surpassed a lot of my friends who were still going to school. But this is because I had somebody pushing me and motivating me every single day. Now, after I graduated from San Mateo, I got re-accepted into Cal State East Bay for the third time. I had been kicked out of Cal State East Bay a few times already. And so going back to East Bay, I was kind of nervous, thinking I was going to go back to my bad habits, the people that were there. And I knew that, okay, if I'm going back here, something's got to change. I can't be the same person anymore. And so I made a decision that I was going to be on a better path, and I wasn't going to keep living the same lifestyle anymore. So what happened was, I made a decision that I was going to be focused. I was going to go to school. I was going to get my grades and then just graduate and get my degree in criminal justice. So at this point in time, this was a rough period for me because I was transitioning from being homeless to starting to go back to my mom's house. She had let me come back to her house, and, it was at this point in time in like mid-October where somebody had reached out to me. I remember I had prayed to God before I got reached out to. I'd asked God to help me out and to help me, start a new path and to help me to find something new, a new opportunity, a new beginning. And what happened was, the following day after my prayer, somebody reached out to me, and it was amazing. And I always thank God for that because he gave me an opportunity to change. He gave me an opportunity to do something great that I had never been doing before. Somebody invited me out to Bible study, and I remember I was super grateful for it because I had never really studied the Bible before. I had never really learned to pray, and even though I was raised in a Catholic background, I never really knew what it meant to have a relationship with God. And so I was really thankful and I was really grateful. So I studied the Bible and I learned what it meant to be a disciple, and it was crazy. It shocked me. I was super excited to know that there was something different out there than just religion and just going to church. And after a few studies, I realized, man, I'm not living right. I'm not living the way God wants me to live, and I need to change. And it really inspired me to seek out this relationship with God. I decided that, I would get baptized. I decided that I would change my life around and seek him out for the better. And so I ended up getting baptized November 23rd, 2014. It was the greatest decision I ever made, and I don't regret it. 3 years today, sober of alcohol, sober of drugs, not, using anything. And so I thank God for giving me this opportunity to not falter and go back to my old ways. And so I just want to share my opportunity with you guys and share, how God changed my life, and he can change your life too. All you got to do is make a decision to seek him out. All you got to do is give your heart to him and allow him to really work in you. There's some challenges along the way, but one thing that I am grateful for is that, this group really taught me what it meant to be a disciple, because I had never really been taught what it meant to be a disciple ever before. And so that was the difference between, being in the Catholic faith and really studying the Bible with this group, is they showed me what it meant to have a real relationship with God and studying the Bible to become a disciple. And it was the greatest thing I ever did. And so I want to encourage everybody who's hearing this message that they can be inspired by this, and that they can see that God can continue to work in your life. He can inspire you too, and He can move in your heart to help you overcome anything that you're going through today. So stop doubting, take a leap of faith, allow God to work in your life today, and then allow Him to work through you today. You know, if you're studying the Bible, make a decision to get baptized. Make a decision to seek God out. If you've never really given anything 100% to, make the decision today. Give God all of your heart. Give Him everything finally. Show Him that you're ready. Take that leap of faith. And so I really encourage everybody today for listening to my testimony, and I appreciate it, and I hope that this can one day really move you. Thank you so much. Love you guys.